Welcome to Keeping It Green, a podcast for ornamental plant professionals and enthusiasts with hosts Margaret Pickoff and Sandy Feather.
Hello, and welcome to Keeping It Green, a podcast from Penn State Extension for ornamental plant professionals and enthusiasts. I'm one of your hosts, Margaret Pickoff. I'm a horticulture educator with Penn State Extension, and on each episode, I'm joined by one of my colleagues on the green industry team as a co-host. And on today's episode, my co-host is Sandy Feather. Hello, Sandy.
Hey, Margaret, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm good. The sun is shining, and we're going to have another nice warm day here.
Yeah,
And then
lovely.
starting tomorrow, it's all downhill. But at least we're going to get some rain. Much needed rain in the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah, that'll be something nice to look forward to, some rainy days before we really dive into fall. On today's episode of the podcast, we're going to be joined by Dan Bangert and Hugh Weldon from the Philadelphia branch of the Professional Grounds Management Society. And we're excited for our conversation with them. Before we get to our interview, we usually start out with a little check-in about what your hosts are doing with their work and what we're seeing out in the landscape. So Sandy, what are you seeing? So we've had a little warm spell this week. We are currently in the first week of October. And now it sounds like we're headed for rain.
Well, and we need it. I'm a little concerned that we're not going to have the greatest fall color. A lot of I've described a lot of our trees as looking pretty tired and anxious to get rid of their leaves. I have a big sugar maple in my yard, and it's about half colored up right now, and this is pretty early for it. And those leaves are starting to come down pretty thick. So I'm just not sure we're going to have the great color display that we usually look forward to. Hopefully over in the Laurel Highlands, things will be a little bit better because they've gotten a little bit more rain than we have.
So is that fall color usually tied to precipitation throughout the summer season?
Well, we've had two significant drought periods this year, one like late May into June, and then we did get some relief, and then it was very dry in September. And going into this month, it's been in the 80s every day, which is really kind of unusual for October for us in the Pittsburgh area. So, and not a drop of rain, and 80-degree temperatures and some wind to go along with it. So I think, a lot of plants just seem to be dropping their leaves and saying, good riddance, I'll leaf out again next spring, and hopefully it'll be a better year.
Yeah, I'm done with this growing season. Let's get prepared for a long winter nap now.
And the other thing we've got going on, of course, is we're on the building end of the spotted lanternfly plague. And so I spend a lot of time answering people's questions and trying to allay their fears and trying to convince them not to do dangerous things like use kerosene to control spotted lanternfly.
I mean, I thought the sticky traps were the worst thing, but a kerosene, I don't know about that. These poor plants and insects and birds.
Yeah. I know, I'm just like, folks, think about what the kerosene is doing more damage to your plants than the spotted lanternflies are.
Yeah. Wow. Well, when people set their eyes on a target, they really wanna do something about it, and so I can't blame them there.
They're big insects. They scare people, even though they don't bite or sting. People have a fear of insects, and when you see large numbers of big insects, I think it frightens people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, my mom and dad live in New York City on the 8th floor of an apartment building, and my mom found a spotted lanternfly on her little patio on the 8th floor. So they make it up there as well. Somehow they're good crawlers, I guess.
They can't fly. They're not the best flyers, but actually, my understanding is that they like to get up on tall places so they can kind of launch themselves.
Interesting. Okay.
Did your
Wow.
parents do okay? I understand there's quite a bit of flooding in New York City.
I think they did. Yeah, it was. I haven't checked in with them since that happened a couple days ago, but I was seeing pictures of flooded subways and the rivers were really high and flooded streets. So yeah, that I think it's just a whole lot of rain, so much rain in a very short period of time. So that, that is disruptive to a lot of stuff. We focus on the effect on plants a lot of the time. That could be really stressful for plants, but obviously in our cities as well. So yeah, but so far I think I don't know that my parents have been so much affected, and they're glad they're on the eighth floor. I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, well great. I think we're not seeing nearly as many spotted lanternfly out here. The big thing everyone's talking about is just that the Phillies, have been winning their baseball games lately, and so there's been a lot of cheering, lots of fireworks here in South Philly the past couple of days, and haven't had as many plant questions, maybe because of that. People are good and distracted by some good baseball news, but we are
That's
headed for a busy programming season. We just ran a really successful invasive weed and right-of-way meeting yesterday up in Berks County, and heard from a couple of our extension colleagues there about poisonous plants in right-of-ways, and our colleague Tanner did a great trivia game about different pesticide safety topics, and so that's always a fun day.
good. That's
Yep.
excellent.
So gearing up to do some more education for the fall and winter, which is
Yes,
always fun.
indeed.
Great. Well, nice to check in with you, Sandy. Always good to hear what's happening on the exact opposite end of the state from
Yes,
where I am.
yes. And
And
and I probably can't be too happy about the Phillies' success because the Pirates haven't been doing so well.
well, you can jump on the Phillies bandwagon whenever you want.
Well, I'll tell you what, if they go all the way, I will certainly be rooting for them as opposed to a team from another state.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, you
I'll
gotta.
probably be in a lot of trouble because Pittsburghers are serious about their sports
Oh,
teams.
yeah, they certainly are. They're all their coordinated colors out there. Well, great. Yeah, so let's get into our conversation with Hugh Weldon and Dan Bangert. Hugh Weldon is horticultural manager at Villanova University in Villanova, Pennsylvania, and is currently president of the Philadelphia branch of the Professional Grounds Management Society, which we'll be referring to in this conversation as PGMS. And Dan Bangert is the grounds team leader at Pennsylvania Hospital here in Philadelphia, right pretty close to me here. And he is currently secretary of the PGMS Philly branch. So thanks for being with us, Hugh and Dan, and we're so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for the invite.
Yes, thanks for having us, guys.
You're so welcome. So we like to start out hearing about what our guests do day to day, what their role entails, and we will ask a bunch of questions about PGMS as a professional organization and how it benefits horticultural professionals and folks who manage the grounds of campuses and institutions and other horticultural places. But first, we'd love to hear what you do in your jobs day to day. So why don't we start with you, Hugh? Can you describe what you do for Villanova University?
Certainly. I'm the horticultural manager and also do a lot of event setups. There's 33 grounds crew unionized, which is very good. And 3 of them are full-time mechanics. 4 of them work with trash and recycling full-time. The other 26 I personally manage. We take care of everything grounds related. All the lawns, weeds, pulling, spraying weeds, blowing leaves, all the flowers, annual flowers, shrubs, trees, branches. Some of the large trees are large tree work is contracted out, but anything small we take care of. We do all the plantings. We try to put in 60 to 70 trees at least every year, and snow and ice removal. leaf removal in the fall. A lot of event setups, anything from a table to 2 chairs to helping out with graduation, which is about 12,000 fold-up chairs, orientation, coming, day of service, a lot of big events we help out with. Crew's very heavily involved with them.
Great. Yeah, it's I think going to be a running theme for our conversation, how grounds management extends beyond just caring for plants and doing beautification around the campus. It sounds like it is a very multifaceted job and something you always have different events coming up and things to set up, and wouldn't necessarily think about thousands of chairs to set up for graduation, but that makes a lot of sense. That's part of the grounds and the events happening there.
Yeah, for graduation commencement, we set up like 6,000 chairs in a campus green area, and then another 6 or 7,000 in the stadium. So the ones in the campus green have to be curved, so it's very hard to get them in lines and keep the distance right. And then the ones in the stadium all have to be exactly squared up and teed off. Then everything has to be cleaned up afterwards. A lot of trash. Sometimes it's blown away. Sometimes if it's rain soaked, it's stuck to everything. And then sometimes the campus green and some of the fields that are used for other events get trampled on and destroyed. Just like we had family weekend 2 weeks ago, and the field was totally destroyed. We're trying to fix it now for homecoming. When I say totally destroyed, it had over 215 tents on it.
Wow.
210 of those were 10 by 10s, and they outsell those. They sell them out for family weekend and then again homecoming weekend, plus several other tents that would have food and drinks underneath them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
So, I was just going to say, how do you turn the turf around that fast?
We're not going to this year. We're just going to let them destroy it again for Thanksgiving and then come in and fix it. The work there, God, areas will aerate and seed. But of course, nobody ever wants to pay for this, you know.
I'm sure that's an ongoing challenge.
Yeah, tens of thousands. Everybody wants to have their events on the fields, but nobody wants to pay to fix it afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. Great. Well, that's a really nice intro to what you do, Hugh. And how about you, Dan? So you're working on the grounds at Pennsylvania Hospital, which I think is at 8th and Pine in Philly.
8th and Pine, 8th and Spruce. We take up about 9 blocks, real close to Independence Hall. We're a couple blocks from there, right down the street from all the jewelers, all the Robbins rocks, all that stuff. So we're right in Center City. I mean, when we're our nation's first hospital. When we were built, we were in the countryside. We were, everybody lived on Market Street about 5 blocks away, and you had to venture to come get to the hospital. But now we are in the thick of the city. So logistics is probably the hardest part of my job, trying to get materials in there. I've worked at places where you get tractor trailers of mulch. I'm not getting a tractor trailer down the street here to get me stuff. So,
Right.
but we do all the stuff Hugh does in a smaller amount. So there's 4 of us on the grounds team, and every day we just try to put smiles on faces. So however that is, if it's planting flowers, if it's picking up trash, clearing snow, if it's I see that your car battery's dead, let me jump it for you. Every day you see people walking around, it's their first time to the hospital. They don't know where they're going. I know where that building is. Let me show you. Someone's on a wheelchair. Let me push it. So whatever I can do to put a smile on a face, that's me. And I'm very blessed, very lucky to work with guys with a similar mindset. So, if we're string trimming the lawn, we can shut it off for a second and let me help you out with whatever you need. So very blessed to work at a wonderful place.
Yeah, that does it does strike me as an interesting and maybe unique facet of this particular part of horticulture, because a lot of horticultural work is done in a solitary manner. Someone is, mowing lawns all day, or keeping up a golf course, or taking care of an exhibit at a botanical garden or something. And it's a little bit more solitary. And both of you work, and I guess that's the nature of grounds management. You're working in places where there is a lot of traffic. There are different populations of people at each of the places you work. So Hugh, you're surrounded by students all the time, and families, and faculty and staff, and Dan, you've got not only the hospital staff, but also people coming to the hospital as patients and family. And you're in a very touristy part of Philadelphia, so I'm sure people wandering around and want to see the first hospital ever built in the U.S. And so I'm sure that your staff, you have to be pretty geared towards chatting with people or showing them where things are, and being helpful in that way that maybe other folks in the horticulture sector don't have to do quite as much.
Yeah, it's certainly logistically different than anywhere else I've worked. I don't want to call it a challenge because I enjoy it, but every day you could see people grouping up, and you don't know, maybe their father was just told that he only has a couple hours left to live. Am I going to just keep string trimming or mowing the lawn right past them and go, sorry guys, this is the time I cut my lawn? So we have to be very cognizant of what's going on around us, and just know like what I'm doing here is not as important as that. So I can always come back and finish mowing the lawn tomorrow, or whatever. There's 9,000 things to do here, so it's never like we never win. We're never done. We're like the post office. So let me just adjust, and hey, I'll go work on the other block. Maybe this will die down over here later, and I can come back to it. So I've worked at places that are hundreds of acres, and you just get at it. You just do it, and you work it where you're going to work. Here, it's not like that. It's very funny. We have a board that every morning we say like, hey, this is what we're going to do today. Here's the 5 things we're going to do. I don't think in 8 years I've had one day where we actually did the things that I said we were going to do. Because as you're walking around, like, oh, well, that branch just fell, so let me stop what I'm doing. I got to get that. Oh, wait, this building is now leaking. We got to stop what we're doing to go do that. You mentioned that horticulture, we're a little bit more jack of all trades, doing stuff like the chairs with Hugh. Here at the hospital, I love that they give us all sorts of oddball assignments, and I love it because it's variety. My day is never the same, so I enjoy it.
Yeah, you have to be comfortable with never finishing your to-do list, which I think would be hard for some
Actually,
people.
Yeah, we never win. We're never done. So
Yeah, I have a lot more questions about what you enjoy and find challenging or interesting about your particular the type of work that you do on the campus or the hospital grounds. I'm curious. I'm always interested, and we've had lots of these conversations on the podcast about how people kind of become interested in horticulture or how they find themselves in the position that they're in. And we haven't had a lot of grounds management folks on the show yet. So, Hugh, our listeners can probably tell by your voice, but you're from Ireland and came here, I think, in the early 90s. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you landed where you are now?
Certainly. I grew up in Ireland, a little town called Rush. It's in North County Dublin. It was called the market gardening capital of Ireland. Market gardening is considered vegetable growing over there. So we did a lot of vegetables, obviously potatoes, but cabbage, carrots, cauliflowers, turnips, parsnips, all that stuff outdoors. The soil was really too good to raise cattle and sheep on. So a lot of greenhouses were built over the years. So they would, in the summertime, you'd grow tomatoes and cucumbers and stuff like that. In the wintertime, a lot of lettuce. So I was constantly working in those greenhouses and the fields since age 10 during the summer when I was off school, and then Saturdays year round, maybe from the age of 12, Saturdays year round. I just figured college wasn't my thing, so I got out of school as quickly as possible, and my mom said, you're not going to be a laborer for these farmers all your life. So she enrolled me, helped me get enrolled in a government-run program that was in a garden centre, learning all about horticulture, all the little different aspects of horticulture that you'd see in a garden centre. And that was good. And then shortly after, when I finished that up, I got a job at a nursery. A large landscaper was starting off as nursery, and I joined him for 5 years. And then after that, I went back to a farmer, a flower and bulb farmer in Ireland that most of my family worked for. And then back to the farms. And wasn't a whole lot of employment at the time, so I was like, okay, let me head to the United States, which I was lucky enough to land on the main line in Philadelphia, a town called Bryn Mawr. And I got a job landscaping and tree work there for a couple of years. That work gets cut off right at Christmas every year. And January, February, March is pretty tough. There was very little landscape work. So I realized I got to get a year-round job. So I landed a job at Villanova University as a laborer and worked way up. Like I did some night classes at Temple University Ambler campus and got a degree from there. And then moved into management shortly after.
Nice.
So you found that college was for you, but not until later.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I found out years later that when I was working in the garden center and the nursery, I was coming home with all these Latin names of plants, and my family was giving me a hard time behind my back, saying, "Yeah, you want to go to school, but here he is speaking Latin."
Yeah. That's really cool, the way that you developed that interest, and then it's always cool to see how people work their way up through an organization. And so it's been almost 30 years at Villanova.
Yeah, 28. Yep.
28. Wow, that's amazing. What about you, Dan? How did you get interested in was it plants you got interested in first, or more, how did you get into this?
Well, I started this as a child. My father had his own landscape company. We were in Central Bucks, Buckingham, not too far from where you work there. And when I was 3 years old, I went on a job site with him. I got stung by yellow jackets. I'm now friends with the bees. I was not friends then. I think when I was 4, I fell off the dump truck, got a concussion, so probably not very OSHA approved. And I worked with my father, pulling weeds, stuff like that. I think by the time I was 7, I could fill wheelbarrows. Funny, by the time I was 8, he was leaving me on jobs. Now these were his customers' houses. They were like his friends. I can't imagine. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old now. I can't imagine leaving them at someone's house till 9 o'clock at night. But I promise you, it was very normal at the time, because all of my peers, all of my dad's friends who were farmers, the 8-year-olds that were there at the farms, they were riding the tractors, they were manning the cash register. It felt very normal to me. Obviously, my wife would not agree with that now if I took the kids out. But I did that my whole life. When I got done college, I went to Penn State, actually not for landscaping or any kind of horticulture. I was just trying to see if I wanted to do something else. When I came home, I started my own company, and I loved it. I love the entrepreneurial, taking a bite out of something you can't possibly bite and hoping like heck you can figure out how to chew it before you choke. So a lot of what I do now stems from that kind of ambition. I love taking on projects that I have no business doing or starting, but what the heck. COVID brought a lot of that out. There was a lot of we got to build a tent because we got to do it. All right, let me figure it out. So I've always enjoyed that. I always enjoy the challenge. So I worked at a nursery. I sold my company because I'm very bad at saying no to people. And I had just started dating my wife. We're very happily married for 16 years now, but we dated for about 5 years before then. And when we were dating, it was year 5 or 6 of my company, and me showing up at 11 o'clock at night was not, she was not fond of. So, and I would try every now and then to I'm going to get done at 6, but sure enough, this weekend I've got to work late because this project's got to get done. There was always going to be another project that was always going to have me home at 11 o'clock. So,
yeah.
So I sold the company. I never regretted it ever since, because now I coach my kids' sports, and I would have missed all that, and I wouldn't have even known I was missing it. So very happy to have sold my company. But I worked as a nursery salesman. I enjoyed teaching customers how to do stuff on their own. I enjoy the teaching aspect of, let me show you how to do this. Let me let you practice it. And now you can go do it. And I like that with all aspects of my life, especially with coaching sports and stuff, showing someone how to do it, telling them how to do it, then letting them practice, answer questions, and then let them do it on their own. So I got a lot of that at the nursery salesman job. And I was a nursery manager for a few years with some really good companies, Gale Nurseries and Joanne Kosecki Garden Design up in Allentown. So I got to work with a lot of fantastic professionals. I learned a lot of, Hugh, all those botanical names, I got real well versed. I got to see really bizarre projects on the main line, like just blow your mind. I didn't even know that was possible. So that was great to work with such wonderful, wonderful people. I worked at a golf course. That was great, like building green walls, and they renovated everything. So I got to work with a great landscape architect, Danoa Mafe, and it's fun creating stuff. So everywhere I've gone, people have been very blessed to essentially hand me keys to things and say, go have fun. So I've had a lot of fun. I enjoy the heck out of it. I love the hospital here. They treat me like a king. It's fantastic. Every time I kind of do something new, I didn't know that was possible. Do something even more. So I love when they add stuff to my plate. I enjoy the challenge. So everything makes you what you are today. So it's exciting to see where I'll be 10 years from now. So
yeah, well, that's a good, I think we do have these career sort of discussions on this podcast a lot, just because it's interesting for me and for our colleagues to hear how people wind up where they are. But I think for a younger person, we often talk about how to get young people interested in this field and how people wind up in horticulture. And that seems like a common thread is to keep in mind, is that all of these little experiences kind of teach you different things and arm you for with skills that who knows when it's going to come in handy. And so all the experiences are worthwhile, even if it's a zigzaggy sort of path to get where you want to be. So I I'm sure Sandy and I have a lot more questions about the work that you do day to day. I know we did want to ask you about the Professional Grounds Management Society, which is how I became connected with both of you through doing education for spring field days that PGMS holds for its members. Currently, Hugh, you're the current president of the Philadelphia branch, and Dan, you're the secretary. So I guess maybe starting with Hugh, could you describe, what PGMS is and what services it provides, or what kind of value it holds for people in this industry?
Yes. So Professional Grounds Management Society is an old society. They've been around for over 110 years. They started out with a group of grounds managers just getting together and trying to network together. I'm sure they didn't use that back in the day, but the Philadelphia branch in particular, we get together 4, 5, 6 times a year and meet at different locations, sometimes sites of different campuses or colleges, sometimes at nurseries, different places. We try to get some speakers and get some credits. It's a big draw, but it's really about networking, because we all have challenges and we've all either come across those challenges or will come across those challenges at some point, and just sharing those stories, how we work through those challenges and learning from each other is the main goal, really. Is that, whenever you feel swamped or stressed out about something, you can reach out to one of the other managers, somebody you've made friends with or met at different meetings, and can kind of talk through the challenge that you have. And if they don't know it, maybe they know somebody else that has worked through that challenge in the past. That's really what it's about. It's not just colleges or universities, it's hospitals. We've got members in hospitals, members that take care of cemeteries, schools, how do we put it, retirement communities, things like that. And also a lot of vendors also that really support us and back us up. A lot of the people that we buy supplies from really help us out and back us up at these meetings throughout the year.
Yeah, we have there's arborists in the group, there's landscape contractors in the group. So there's there's nursery, wholesale, people in the group, people who sell fertilizer. There's a wide array of people in the industry here to help us. Our particular chapter, we're the Philadelphia chapter, but it's national. There's chapters all over, New England, New York, all over. And of our chapter, there's roughly about 75 people a year, guys and gals, and we extend, all the way up to Penn State, all the way out to Pittsburgh. There's groups in like Princeton in New Jersey, University of Delaware down there. There's a lot of us that are more concentrated. I'd say 75% of us are concentrated in the Philly metropolitan area, the surrounding counties. So a lot of times when we have our events, we have 2 to 3 events a year. A lot of times, most of the people that are coming are from that Philly surrounding area, because it's hard for someone who's taking care of Carnegie Mellon University to drive all the way out to Philly. But we have webinars and stuff like that. So it is possible for people to still get information and still be able to network and discuss problems and solutions online. So no, it's a wonderful organization. I've been in it for many years. I've attended PGMS stuff way before I even ever joined. But it's very good to be associated with like-minded peers, professionals that have been in the industry for many, many years. That way, none of us has to reinvent the wheel. We're all like mini scientists. We're all observing stuff at all times. We all have our theories on why we think the fall color isn't going to be good this year. We all have theories, and it's good to put it out there so other people are testing us, other people are cross-checking, and that's not why it is. It's this instead. So you learn more at a lunch at one of these meetings by osmosis of being around all these smart professionals than you will a year of Googling stuff. So I love it for that reason.
Yeah,
so
sorry, go ahead, Hugh.
Great niche group for people that are managing grounds and campuses compared to like superintendents of golf courses. They've got their own group. There's lawn care societies, all that. So this group is a little different, and it's like a great niche group for people that are managing campuses or hospitals, just grounds in general, and not just lawns or not just golf courses or things like that.
Well, you guys are managing it all. You've got to deal with the trees and the shrubs and the grass and the sidewalks, and
Exactly.
You're doing it all.
Well, and unlike someone who's working for a landscape service where they're bouncing around to different properties all the time, I guess it's a benefit and probably a challenge that when you're managing the grounds of a particular place, you probably get to know it at a much higher degree, all the ins and outs and the weird, particular, nooks and crannies that you find in these different places, and, the low spots where it always gets wet or something like that. And so there's, I'm sure, just a lot of built up, knowledge about how to navigate those types of challenges. Dan, you had said, sitting in on lunches, you kind of absorb things by osmosis. And the last PGMS meeting that I sat in on, which was last month after a pest walk in Bucks County, I think there was a conversation that came up about equipment and electric, that maybe making the switch to electric equipment and tools. And you had mentioned a couple of things I found interesting that you had said before that sometimes a lot of the people who are milling about and sitting around the Pennsylvania Hospital campus, some of them have just received difficult news, or they're there to support a loved one, and they really value having a quiet, beautiful space to sit. And so the difference between a gas-powered string trimmer and an electric string trimmer, it can make a big difference, or a leaf blower or something, which is either a really loud, disturbing sound or something a little quieter. And so it kind of goes back to, you have a lot of interface with people around you, watching what you're doing and hearing what you're doing. And that can kind of affect the choices of equipment and, timing of what you're doing. So I've experienced the sort of osmosis of those lunchtime discussions. I had never thought about that before. So that seems really powerful and really helpful.
Yeah, you never know if you're the one that has the information that's worthy of sharing. I normally come armed with 10 questions because, I might be experiencing some sort of problem with an oak tree and pretend it's oak wilt. But, I personally, I work here at the hospital. I can't go inside and ask the doctors what's wrong with the oak tree. I can't ask the guy who works at the cafeteria. I can't ask the valet guys. So, and I could Google 100 different ways. Why is this oak struggling? But I could go at lunchtime armed with, all right, guys, this is what I'm noticing on the leaves. This is what I'm noticing on the branches. And somebody there has had that same problem within the last 20 years. And somebody there can tell me, this is what it is. This is what you need to do. This is the vendor you need to talk to. This is when you need to apply something. Or even if they don't have the solution, somebody there can say, I've had that problem. And I'll tell you what I tried that didn't work, just so I don't waste my time going down that avenue. So, sometimes we don't have all the answers, but hey, at least don't make me reinvent the wheel just to have me find out that wasn't worthy of my time. So it's great to come ready to pepper the other guys with questions. And sometimes you never know if they need to pepper you. So in my case, I'll expand upon the battery powered equipment. We weren't purchasing battery powered equipment here to be, it wasn't really for being like green friendly it was more for sound volume and like, hey, practically I need to get my job done, and I can practically get my job done if I do this, because I won't be distracting people. I won't be upsetting people. And it just so happens, hey, I'm noticing I'm not getting all the carbon monoxide with it. So all of a sudden, hey, when we're drilling in tulip bulbs, if I'm the guy next to you with the gas-powered drill, I don't want to be breathing in the carbon monoxide as I'm putting the tulip bulbs in. So, all right, let's make that battery-powered too. And as we keep switching over to the battery-powered stuff, we keep realizing, hey, it's just as strong. It's working just as well. So each piece of equipment as we get, well, let's switch it over. Let's trial and error. And as I notice things are good, I love to be an advocate and tell people. I love to be the person who says, hey, guys, you got to try this new plant. Hey, guys, don't try this plant. Hey, guys, you got to try this fertilizer. I love sharing the knowledge I have because I love when others share it with me. So, So, again, osmosis, fantastic. That way we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So,
well, I think, too, the technology with those electric equipment in general, the leaf blowers, the mowers and everything, I think that just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, can I piggyback on that? Because I tried some of the battery powered equipment like about 10 or 12 years ago, and it wasn't really where we wanted it to be, but we have started buying it up now in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot more for some of the same Dan said, just the noise. We've had professors complain about the noise of backpack blowers and stuff outside their classroom, especially in the fall season when trying to blow leaves, disrupting their class. Where we collect all the leaves at the library, that's down in a lower area in a kind of a gully area, but that's where their intake for the air is for the building, and they suck up all that exhaust in. So we've learned over the years we have to go and get the HVAC guys to shut everything down before we blow the leaves in there, before we collect the leaves. So that's helpful. We've also had students call Mommy. Johnny would call Mommy and say, it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning and there's mowers and blowers outside my window. I can't sleep. I was studying all night, not out partying. I was up studying all night.
Of course.
And I can't sleep in when my finals are coming up. So, so that's great with that. The other thing we found is what I like about the campus is over the years, I've heard about studies and seen some surveys that a lot of students, potential students and parents visiting campuses will decide within 5 minutes of being on a campus, before they get into a building, before they see a classroom, before they meet a professor. It's the landscape that make them feel comfortable and make them feel at home and actually want them to come to the campus. And I actually had that experience about 2 years ago. I was walking through campus and there was a lady sitting on a bench on a cell phone talking. And as I walked by her, I heard her saying, it was April in Philadelphia area. So all the rhododendrons, azaleas, trees, everything was in flower. It was really pretty. And she goes, you won't believe this place. This place is beautiful. you're going to move this place way up high on your list of where you're going to go to school. So she was obviously talking to their I know it was a son or daughter, but it just put a smile on my face to hear that.
Do you think landscape design, like from the time you started there at Villanova to now, well, like, do you get any pressure from the students to do things like maybe use softer pesticides or not use pesticides or to use more native plants, things like that?
Yeah, not so much from the students, but we hear from professors. We hear them asking those, and students asking those questions, reaching out, asking what we use and how we use it. And we talked about the pesticides, how we manage them, and how we go with the least toxic stuff, insecticides and herbicides. But that landscape has changed an awful lot in 28 years. It's gotten a lot nicer, I think. There is a big push for natives, and we've recently collaborated with biology department to get more and more natives and more small native gardens in.
Okay, nice. So, do you think there's any changes to landscape design as it relates to personal safety, like being careful about where you have dense plantings where maybe somebody could hide?
Actually, that came up big time this summer.
Did it really?
We did have to rip out a lot of mature landscaping, large yew bushes, large cherry laurels that was anywhere close to windows and doors in several locations on campus because of that security risk.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I would have never thought of that.
Yeah. We've been trying to prune them back, and it just wasn't enough. And finally, we just got so much pressure. And it's just like, you know what? If something happens, I'm not going to be the one held responsible because I let those bushes stay there and I let those bushes grow there. If it's a security risk, and in these days, you just can't take that risk anymore. If somebody gets mugged or robbed or, God forbid, anything worse, it's not going to be on my watch, and it's not going to be my fault. We can rip out those cherry laurels, we can rip out those yew bushes, cut them down, and we replant with something that's much more lower growing.
Okay.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, so we've kind of talked about the, how your jobs relate to the student and visitor experience. And Sandy brought up a great question about safety, and that's obviously got to be a big concern for both of you. So, we've talked about a little bit about security, but you're both dealing with populations that are, college students aren't always thinking clearly. People visiting hospitals have a lot on their minds, and so creating a really not just a pleasant environment, but a safe environment must be a big priority. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, like, having tree branches, checked all the time and making sure the ice is melted and things like that, I'm sure are top of mind for you guys at different points in the year.
Yeah, I have things that are very outside the box that I've never thought to think of before in landscaping. I'll give you one. We help, there's 2 behavioral health floors at the hospital here. And some of the people are just here for, hey, I either had an alcohol problem or hey, I told my family I was going to hurt myself, but just because my boyfriend broke up with me and I didn't mean it. I shouldn't have said it, but hey, I'm here just to get some therapy, just to relax and let everyone know that everything's going to be okay. But we have some floors where we help a lot of our friends and patients with that. And we decided to put a sensory garden on the balconies of both of these floors. So when the people go outside for breaks and lunch breaks, so they're not just on an empty balcony staring at a cemetery. So let's give them something interesting. So we came up with sensory gardens, and me and my team, we do presentations for the patients, let them know what it is. So essentially sensory gardens are, these are plants that appeal to taste, touch, smell, sound. So some of the plants that I would associate with being in a sensory garden, like, Baptisia, when the seed pod dries, it makes a rattle and it's a cool sound, something that'd be neat in a woodland path to hear that as you're walking through. Well, I had to figure out if everything was toxic or not, because I had to figure out whether or not what if one of the patients ate something? So it was the weirdest thing going through my list of, well, can't include that plant, can't include that plant, things that I just never would have thought of. Well, yeah, I've thought of like, what if a deer eats this plant, but I've never thought of what if a person eats this plant. So yeah, odd things come up. It's fun to always think outside the box and think of things from a different angle.
Yeah, and I remember when you were giving me a campus tour, Hugh, and we came to a courtyard area, and you had said that, after Villanova won a big game, the students just went wild. And I was new to Philadelphia at the time, so I hadn't heard about greasing the lampposts to make sure people aren't climbing up them. And now I know that's a time-honored Philadelphia tradition. But trying to think through, what are students going to do? What are patients going to do in all these scenarios? That it must be a challenge and a really interesting part of the job as well.
Yeah, at that time, Villanova has won 3 national basketball championships. They won one in '85, which really put them on the map, and then 2016 and 2018. And for a number of years before that, once we got into the Sweet 16, then the planning, the meetings all started, just in case we won a championship. So we'd had some experience with that, planning ahead of time, and we'd greased the poles several years where we got close to it and into the Final Four, but never actually won a championship. So when we won the championship, that was quite an experience, and the amount of effort that went into, we want the students to enjoy themselves and we want them to have the party and all that, but the bonfires and climbing the poles and blocking off roads and just the chaos that they want to create, but without getting it out of control. We huge police force on campus, and they were very good, and they let them party. But once they said, okay, that's enough, then they knew how to break it up. But then we have to come in and clean it all up overnight. When the party stops at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, when the sun comes up the next morning, everything has to be spotless clean because we're going to be on national TV. It has to look like nothing ever happened.
I'll clue Hugh. I didn't let you know this at the time. The president of your university called me and said, "What would 19 to 20-year-old Dan have done after you guys won the championship?" So I gave him all the clues on how to stop 19 to 20-year-old Dan.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that really, I was, that was very different than my college experience. I would never consider climbing up a light pole because my team won, but I see, to each their own, and yeah, the sports matter, and you do want to allow for celebration, obviously, but in a
Margaret, you can always
way.
go back for a PhD and still have
That's
the experience.
true. Party it up. Oh my gosh. Wow, you're giving me some ideas here. Well, and so as we sort of begin to wrap up our conversation, I realize we haven't talked very much about plants. We've talked a lot about grounds and grounds management. But I wonder if each of you has anything interesting plant related that's going on your respective campuses, anything cool or weird or sad happening to any plants that kind of stands out to you that you want to share?
Well, obviously everybody's dealing with the emerald ash borer, so we're still taking down trees. We're still injecting a few on the center of campus and spraying a few on the outer campus, but some of those are starting, the ones that we sprayed the trunks now are starting to fail. So we're taking more and more of them down. Beech bark disease is another one that we're keeping a close eye on. And really, really worried. We've got a lot of large European beech, copper beeches, weeping beeches on campus that are very well known, very well recognized, because the main route through campus is Route 30, Lancaster Avenue. There's a lot of public traffic through there, and they can see these huge 100 plus 130-year-old trees that are massive, and we're really concerned about the beech leaf disease coming. So keeping a close eye on that and trying to listen to your advice on what we can do or what's worth doing, what's not worth doing. Yeah, they're the big ones with plants.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of American Beach is used on a lot of campuses, hospital grounds and universities because they're so big and beautiful. And so I'm sure a lot of folks are in the same boat, just watching out for that, those foliar symptoms to start. Yeah, something to keep an eye on, definitely. What about you, Dan?
Well, I struggle every year with our street trees, the trees that are right along the sidewalks. Just we put down copious amounts of salt in the wintertime to try to keep the sidewalks perfect because we have ambulance coming at all times. And so in order to keep it safe, the drawback is we're salting the heck out of those trees and they don't prefer it. Because you can see our neighbors will have the exact same tree and they're not doing anything to their sidewalks and their tree is just fine. So we're kind of little mini scientists here. We try new things. Last year and 2 years ago, I was trying to add gypsum to try to the gypsum can chemically bond to the salt and then rain can send it down through the soil column to get it out of there. Very similar to my wife adding sugar to the pasta sauce to try to get rid of if it's too salty. So we have not had luck because there's just too much salt. So that one's a work in progress. Don't know the answer to that yet. I love talking to other peers to see if anyone has ideas. We've come up with ideas of planting trees that are more tolerant to saline conditions like ginkgos. Well, I have ginkgos here that are dying of the same thing. So I think there can be an
There's
extreme.
There's a limit.
Yes. So, but I'd say the one that's most current on my mind, we have a very historic elm tree here on the property. I'll give a quick synopsis. William Penn, when he came over to America, he signed a peace treaty with the Native Americans, the tribe, the Lenape tribe that was here. And he signed it down on the Delaware River underneath their historic elm tree. That's where they did all of their, hey, we're going to have a new chief. We're going to have an important birth, important death. Everything happened under this elm tree. So that's where they had their meeting. And the meeting is just the best of humanity. That's two strangers coming together and saying, hey, we can live peacefully. Hey, we can coexist. I don't know you. You don't know me. We have different things, but let's get along. And that's the best of humanity. So that the tree kind of represents that. And that tree fell over in a storm in the 1800s. A fella dug up the scions, the suckers from the tree. He gave one to University of Penn, one to Haverford, one to us. Our tree was cut down in 81 as they were building the cafeteria, but that tree had two babies. So let's say these are grandkids of the historic elm tree. And one died of Dutch elm in the 90s. They cut it down right away just to make sure the disease didn't transfer through the roots. So it worked. It was successful. But the other grandkid who is here on my watch just this year caught Dutch yellows. So it's, elm yellows. And it's not preventable. You can't cure it. So we know the tree is going to pass away in the next year to two. So you're catching this live. This is how we learn stuff. This is how we adapt. So I don't want to lose the significance of the tree, even though I know the reality, the tree is going to come down. So right now we're working with some woodsmen to think about creative things we can do with the wood. We're thinking of making some benches that we can put inside the hospital, maybe with some elm leaves on the back. We're going to try to honor the Lenape tribe. They believe very strongly in the turtle having a lot of significance. We ride on the backs of turtles, so maybe some turtle shells where the arms are. We're trying to think of maybe making a monument. We've talked to some woodcutters about making a monument out of the wood. The particular bed where this is, we have a big statue of William Penn. Well, you know what? The Lenape tribe, they were the other part of that deal. Let's honor them. So maybe we make a nice turtle right there. Something that says, look, here in this bed, these two different people, many, many years later, are still living together, still in harmony. So the story of the tree is more important than the tree. No, we do love the tree. The shade is beautiful. The structure of the tree is beautiful, but we're going to lose that. So what better way to make the next purpose of the tree, the next phase of the tree's life, to honor it that way and keep the story going of, hey, we can get along. We can show the better parts of humanity. So that's going on right now. Listen, this story might not have a conclusion for 2 or 3 years because there'll be a lot of people with opinions on what we do with the tree. And So you're catching it live as it's happening right now. But I sure hope we can make a memorial of it, because I believe that'll be an even greater purpose of the tree than what it's actually doing right now. So.
Yeah, I'm glad that there is a lot of thoughtful discussion about how best to, if this is an eventuality, this tree is definitely going to die and the diagnosis is confirmed. It sounds like there's a lot of good ideas there for the next phase of this tree's experience in that space.
Change is life. Life is change. So why not honor it?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great note on which to wrap up here. I'm sure Sandy and I have another hour's worth of questions for you, and maybe we'll do a follow-up podcast episode another time. The work that you both do is really interesting and unique, and I've learned a lot in this conversation. We always wrap up our podcast interviews with the same question so far. Maybe we'll switch it up in the future, but we love to know what our guests like to do outside of work, whether that's plant related or not. So Hugh, we'll start with you. What do you like to do when you're not working?
Well, actually, I do a lot of gardening at home. I also like go to the Delaware beaches and love to visit back home to Ireland, see the family, and go to motorbike road races over there, where they can race motorbikes at speeds up to 200 miles an hour on closed roads. And it's super exciting. Little tiny country roads that are only 1.5 car width ride, they're going up to 200 miles an hour. There's lots of videos out there of it. The Skerries 100 is close to my home. It's less than 5 miles away. We used to be able to walk across fields to get to parts of it when I was 10, 12 years old. One of my bucket list is to go to the Isle of Man TT races. If you look up those races, they're just crazy.
Sounds really fun. Cool. Dan, what about you? What do you like to do when you're not working?
Well, so work takes up a lot of life. So I'm very blessed. I have a wonderful wife and wonderful kids. You need a very good support system in life. So I'm very lucky to have great people around me that, hey, when I'm working 24/7 for snow, hey, they understand it. But when I am home, I'm just as 24/7 with them as I am here with, I coach all my kids' sports. So I really love the heck out of that. We live in a great neighborhood, so there's always kids at our house. So I'm kind of the Hansel and Gretel. We moved to this house 2 years ago, and there's always kids shooting basketballs, throwing footballs, kicking soccer balls. So I just try to keep snacks going, like keep them coming. Yeah, I'm very blessed. I have wonderful people in my life. I have wonderful high school friends, college friends. I'm going up to Salem, Massachusetts in 2 weeks to do the witches up there. My daughter's all into scary stuff, so we'll do that. We're heading to Tennessee for my high school buddies. We're going to the tallest mountain in Tennessee, North Carolina, right on the border there. So very sad. We'll probably be drinking beer and playing Nintendo for 3 or 4 days. But that is
awesome.
That is what we will enjoy. But no, I love coaching. I'll give you one plant geek thing that I have outside of work. I got bestowed with a Einstein begonia. So Einstein passed away in 1955. When he passed away, he was working in Princeton. That's where his office was. And his secretary, when they were clearing out the room, because someone else had to work there, his secretary he had a begonia plant growing in his office. She took it home, took some cuttings from it, shared it with some friends and family. Fast forward a bunch of years, and one of the fellows who had one of it gave me some cuttings. So now I have an Einstein begonia growing in my backyard. So
nice.
Hope you feel smarter hearing that fact. So I'll start sharing cuttings in the next year as it grows bigger for me. So that's my plant geek for the day.
Oh,
That's very cool.
Yeah. Well, if you see Oppenheimer, the movie, you'll recognize a begonia somewhere in there. There's a couple of Einstein cameos that happen during that. So yeah, he lives on through the begonia. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been such a fun conversation. It's always great to chat with you and to learn more about PGMS and your work at Villanova and Pennsylvania Hospital. So really appreciate you coming on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciate
you.
the.
All right, take care.